I'm joined here today by Lauren Murphy, who's set to fight Roxanne Modafferi coming up June 20th. Thanks so much for joining me. How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. Where are you currently in the world? I assume with CT, you're not currently in Arizona?
No, I'm in Texas.
Okay. Why are you currently in Texas? Is this training camp related?
No, I live here. Yeah, I moved here last November.
Okay, yeah. So I need to get updated. I was thinking you were still at the MMA lab in Arizona, but I guess, yeah, things are changing for you.
Yeah, if you follow me on Instagram, yeah, you'd see that I've been in Texas for a while, training at Main Street Muay Thai with Bob Perez and at Gracie Baja Katie here in Houston.
Sounds good. And as someone that used to live in Alaska, what's it like now being in Texas? I assume temperature wise, it's really two different places.
Yeah, well, I moved out of Alaska in 2012, I think. Yeah, in 2012, I moved out of Alaska, and since then, I've lived in Florida, Arizona, and Texas. So it's not that new, I guess, anymore.
Oh yeah, so when you moved out of Alaska, you were gonna make it count. I mean, it was like we were going to the heat. It wasn't gonna do anything halfway, anything half-assed. It was like a full-on temperature change.
Yeah.
All right, so listen, let's talk about this fight a little bit against Roxanne Modafferi that's coming up soon. First things first, how did this fight kind of come together?
Uh, well, the UFC asked me if I wanted to fight Roxanne, and I said yes.
Oh yeah, so simple enough. There was no hesitation with everything that's going on. Talk of Fight Island, things like that. No, zero hesitation.
No, I mean, we started talking about it, and the UFC was really good about like working with me through the quarantine and stuff, with all the gyms closed. When they first approached with a fight offer, it was basically like, well, give me some time to make weight, and basically that was my only concern. So they did that, and we set the date for June 20th. So yeah, I think that's a comfortable amount of time for me to get my weight down safely and yeah, not have any mishaps.
And so, do you currently have a manager? Because I believe you were with someone before, and now you're not. I mean, do you have a management team?
No, I don't. I manage myself.
And so, what's that change been like? Because I assume now you've got a lot more responsibility, with your career and even dealing with the UFC directly.
No, I like it a lot better. I've had three managers in my MMA career, and all three of them have kind of screwed me over. So I just figured, fuck it, like I'll just manage myself from here on out, and it's worked out a lot better. I fired my last manager last year, um, and I just knew it was the right thing to do. As soon as I fired him, I got several $1,000s worth of sponsorships that I got by myself. I started getting better matchups. I won a good fight, got a new contract.
Oh wow.
I don't owe any of that contract to anybody. I'm super happy with the contract that I negotiated for myself. I think that I'm just a better advocate for myself than a manager is going to be. My experience with managers is that they're more concerned about staying on the good side of the UFC than they are about actually fighting for their clients. So I don't know. It just seemed to me, it was like, why would I give 10% of my purse to somebody that's just going to be a middleman between me and the UFC and then not even really advocate for me to the UFC? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. What's it like for you as the fighter when you're negotiating with the UFC? I mean, are you talking to someone like Sean Shelby? What's that? Without getting too into it, of course, but what's that process like for you?
Oh, it wasn't too bad. I work with Mick Maynard now. I never really worked with Sean directly because when Sean was my matchmaker, I had a manager. So my manager kind of did all the dealing with Sean. So, but I like working with Mick a lot. Like I fought for Mick when Legacy was still a thing here in Texas, and we've just always kind of like been on good terms. And he's super easy to work. Oops, sorry about that. He's really really easy to work with. So yeah, like I'm able to just tell him like here's what I've done and here's why I think I deserve this amount, and here's my reasons. And then he came back with whatever he came back with, and it just really it wasn't a difficult process at all. And so we were able to come to an agreement pretty quickly, and I know I was happy with it. So
Of course, that makes sense. Going back to this fight with Roxanne, I was seeing you do a few interviews and things like that, and it seemed like the both of you had been talking about this fight, like this was kind of going to be next. Well, was it obvious that when you two sort of started talking about it, like this fight kind of had to happen next for you guys?
Yeah, actually the UFC wanted to book it a while ago, and we thought we were going to fight each other, and then they kind of came back and they were like, no, let's match up Roxanne and Macy and Lauren and Andrea. And so it was like, well, like, okay, and so we both did those fights and we both won, and I think we both kind of knew if we both won those fights that we would be fighting each other. Like, after Roxanne beat Macy, she kind of knew that she was going to fight the winner of me and Anga. So that was really why I called her out, because I kind of knew the UFC was going to make that matchup anyway, and maybe like get some fan interest into it.
And what's the fan interest like? I know the fight just got announced, so I'm sure it hasn't had time to really, get to its peak. But I assume with you both coming off the big wins and everything, you've got to feel like there's a lot more attention on this fight than maybe some others in the past.
No, I don't think so. To me, it's just another fight. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. This will be my 9th fight in the UFC, I think, and I fought almost all title contenders, girls ranked in the top 5, girls ranked in the top 10. Like, I think I've only had 2 opponents in my entire UFC career that were not ranked in the top 10. So for me, yeah, it's just another fight, really.
And so, speaking of fights, and there's something I was seeing on Twitter recently. It looks like there's kind of, I don't know if beef is the right term. There's something going on between you and the MMA media over maybe some Ultimate Fighter stuff. What's kind of going on there?
Oh, yeah. I went on the A-Side podcast with MMA Fighting. It was like an hour-long interview, and I was pretty happy with it. And some of the questions that they were going to ask me, fans had sent in online. And so I kind of knew some of the questions that were going to be coming and had a chance to kind of think about them and kind of figure out what I wanted to say. And one of the questions was about the Ultimate Fighter. And so I gave an answer that, to me, it was like I was just kind of explaining some stuff that wasn't shown on the show. And I thought maybe explaining like some of the things that the fans didn't get to see that, like, to me were like kind of important,
Right.
stuff that had happened that at the time seemed important. Like, now it's been so long that it didn't really seem that important, but um like, now it doesn't seem important, but at the time it did. And so
Right.
I was just kind of talking about that, and I don't even want to say the guy's name because fucking Steven Morocco, I'm sure, is lurking somewhere just trying to fucking write a shitty headline again. But anyway, I did this A-Side podcast. I was actually really happy with the way the podcast came out, and I thought there was a lot of like really good positive stuff in there. I was super happy with it. And then Steven Morocco wrote an article about that interview. Like, he wasn't even there for the interview. He just kind of watched part of it and then wrote an article about that part of the interview. And it was literally like a 3-minute segment that we talked about the Ultimate Fighter. And he wrote a headline that said, Lauren Murphy says Eddie Alvarez degrading to women, which I literally like did not say. He quoted me incorrectly, and he literally like put words in my mouth. And it was just really shocking because I was like, man, I thought that interview on the A-Side was actually really good. Like, I thought there was a lot of good stuff. I had no idea that somebody would take a 3-year-old beef and turn it into another headline. Like, I honestly thought that my relationship with my coach on the Ultimate Fighter was not newsworthy anymore. Like, to me,
Right.
I did not think anybody would make another fucking headline off of it. Like, it did not even occur to me that that would be the focus of that interview. I don't know. It just really like kind of blew my mind that it was like, okay, you asked me to go on this podcast and then you wrote a deliberately shitty headline to throw me under the bus. It was really a shitty thing to do. And he knew, like, he called me afterward and he was like, hey, you're kind of blasting me on Twitter. I would like basically said that he wasn't expecting that, and I was like, "Oh yeah, like you did to me. Like, that's exactly what you did to me, asshole." And we had this big long conversation, and I told him, like, you quoted me incorrectly. You literally said that I said words I didn't say, and he was like, "No, because of where I put the apostrophe in the sentence. It's actually not." which I don't give a fuck about your apostrophe. Take your apostrophe and shove it up your ass, Stephen Morocco. What a shitty headline. He knew what it was going to look like on Twitter. He knew the kind of reaction he was going to get from it. He knew what the fuck he was doing. He threw me under the bus for doing an interview with his company, which I think is so fucking backwards and weird. And then for him to like call and try to explain himself, he was just kind of a total pussy about the whole thing. Like, I don't know. I hope he watches this interview and he writes a headline about that. Like, write that as a headline, Stephen Morocco's a fucking pussy. So hopefully he'll see that. But, you know, it's just, so anyway, yeah, it was just really a surprising thing. Alexander wrote to me and he was like, hey, the criticisms you have about the headline are totally fair. I didn't know that he was going to say that. And then like, Casey Leiden wrote to me and he was like, hey, that was kind of fucked up. That wasn't me. That's not what was important in that interview, which is true. But it's like they tweeted that headline to 500,000 people on the MMA Fighting Twitter timeline and then apologized to me privately in my DMs. You know, that's fucked up. It's like, if you're going to apologize to me, you should apologize from the same platform that you tweeted that fucking bunk shit headline from. It's just to me, it's cowardly. And it's like, you know, there's all this, like, I got a lot of hate for it and there was a bunch of drama that came out of it again. And that really wasn't what I wanted. I honestly just thought I was giving like kind of a funny and informative and like, I don't know, kind of a smart ass little answer. And honestly, I really just wanted to tell the fans that like, there's a lot of stuff that happens on those shows that people don't get to see, you know, that if they had seen it, maybe they would understand why I did some of the things I did. But there's a lot of stuff that people like. Reality TV is not reality. Anyway, that whole, you know, last night I was going to bed and I read those headlines about Hannah Kimura, and I don't really follow pro wrestling, but it just made me so sad that woman was on a reality show. And I didn't watch it, but just my experience from being on a reality show is that they can make people look however they want. And then the fans got on her case so fucking badly that she ended up committing suicide. It's like, you know, all these people are up in arms about bullying on social media, but where were those people when she was getting bullied? Did anybody stand up for her? Did anybody come to her defense? Did that reality show come out and say that, like, hey, sometimes we frame things so that there will be drama on these shows? Nobody has done any of that. They're all going to bitch and moan about Twitter bullies, and nobody's ever going to do anything differently. The reality show is not going to be any differently. The producers aren't going to, they don't give a fuck, you know? I don't know. It just, MMA Media is going to bitch and moan about Twitter trolls, but it's like they're half the problem with their fucking headlines that they write and the way that they frame things and the things that they focus on. Literally, they're the problem. So, I don't know. It was just really disturbing to me to read that kind of stuff last night because I just know what it's like to be in a position where you get painted as a villain or like really portrayed in an awful light or something like that. And, I don't know. It was a really disturbing thing to me. I actually deleted my Twitter account this morning because it was like, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to be a part of that anymore. And somebody like Stephen Morocco that writes shock headlines and doesn't care about throwing athletes under the bus and doesn't care about the amount of hate that we get from the headlines that he writes. Like, I hope he read that stuff about Hannah Kimura. He realizes the kind of effect that he has when he writes stuff that he writes. Or any MMA media. I hope the producers of that reality show see that, like, when they portray people in shitty lights, it really, really affects us. I hope they see that.
And I can definitely understand that. Coming back to the A side thing, I did watch the whole show and I really enjoyed it because, you know, it was a good thing. I mean, everybody was talking about different things, thought it was interesting. When the article came out, I didn't realize at first that it was linked to your appearance on the A side. I thought, you know, there must have been something that I missed, so I was, you know, very confused by that. But does it make you, you know, the fact that 3 years later people are still talking about it? And I love the Barb joke, even though maybe you don't. But does it make you regret doing The Ultimate Fighter? Like maybe it wasn't worth it considering everything that's still happening 3 years later?
Sometimes, sometimes, sorry. Sometimes I wish I had never gone on that show because it's like I thought the things that I was doing was right. I thought that it was the right thing to cut weight, even though I was already out of the tournament. I thought it was the right thing to go, like, thank Eddie for what he had done. I thought it was the right thing to switch teams. I thought it was the right thing to put myself in a position where I wasn't being, like, bullied anymore by my own coach. I thought it was the right thing to, you know, go in and shake Nico's hand after she beat me and tell her that I wished her well and, like, have breakfast with her the next day. Like, I actually, you know, in those, like, 6 weeks that we spent on the Ultimate Fighter, I actually formed a lot of really good relationships with the women there. And when the show aired, I kind of knew they were going to paint me in a bad light, but I was shocked at how bad it was, because there was actually a lot of really good moments on the Ultimate Fighter that they just don't show. So it was a really hard lesson for me. I don't know if I would be in the UFC if I didn't go on the Ultimate Fighter, though. And I have enjoyed my UFC career. I've enjoyed being a UFC fighter. I'm honored to be in the position that I'm in now. And so it just depends what day you catch me on. Like, there's days where I really regret going on the Ultimate Fighter, and I really regret that I made so many mistakes on such a big stage, you know? And then there's days where I can take the positive out of it and move forward and kind of take those lessons to heart and, like, make it a positive thing. But it just kind of depends what mood you catch me in. Today's kind of a weird day because I read about that girl last night and it really affected me, you know? So it was a pretty emotional thing for me this morning, actually talking to my husband about it. And after that headline came out from the A side on Stephen Morocco, it was rough around here for a couple days. It was really bad. You know, I don't deserve to have Diego Sanchez talking shit to me on fucking Instagram about a situation he knows nothing about because Stephen Morocco thought it would be funny to throw me under the bus with a shitty fucking headline. The least MMA fighting could have done was tweet an apology from their own fucking timeline. You know what I mean? Instead of tweeting it from, like, the writer's personal timeline where nobody's going to see it, or apologizing to me in my DMs where nobody's going to see it. Like, you already threw me under the bus to the public. What good does it do to humiliate somebody in public and then apologize in private? That's so wrong. Alexander Lee was writing to me in my DM saying, we're going to do better. We'll do better. But he never did better. He never did make it right. So I don't know. To me, it's just not worth it. Like, a big part of me wanted to just never do interviews ever again, but I don't think that's the right thing to do. I think I just won't do any interviews with those people anymore.
I can definitely understand that, and it's important that we talk about it too, because sometimes you know, situations like that happen and people forget what goes on behind the scenes with fighters. So I think it's very important that you mention stuff like that and kind of explain that situation, so, you know, people in the media like myself, we can see, you know, what's going on behind the scenes when things like that do come out.
Yeah, I mean, we're human. I read the comments. Like, I read when people tweet hate at me. I read it. I've read some really hurtful stuff about me that, even though I know it's not true, it hurts to think that other people think that about me. It hurts to think that I was portrayed like that, because I don't think I deserve it. I think I'm a pretty good person, and I'm not perfect, but nobody is. And usually, most days, I can get up and kind of look at myself in the mirror, and I know that I have my flaws, but I know that generally I'm a good person, you know? And so it does hurt to be portrayed in this light like I'm such a piece of shit, because I never expected that. And especially, like, going on a podcast for a company where it's like, you guys asked me to come on your podcast. Did you do it just so you could humiliate me and, like, throw me under the bus? Like, why did you do that? I just don't understand. And then to apologize profusely in my DMs and on their own personal Twitter timelines, but not from the same platform that they tweeted that shitty headline from, to me is just like, okay, now I can see the kind, like, to me, that tells me what kind of people they are, you know?
Right, for sure. And I didn't want to go on such a negative note with you, because that's obviously not the goal. But on a more positive note, though, you are coming off a big win over Andrea Lee. Should you beat Roxanne Modafferi, that would be a big win as well. What does that do for your career? Say you go out there and you have an impressive win against Roxanne.
I would love that. Yeah, when I went to go fight Andrea, I was it just felt so good. I felt so confident. I really was like, man, I'm gonna get a finish in this fight. I think I can get a finish here. and really put on a great performance. And the fight was a lot closer than I wanted it to be. But Andrea Lee is
Yeah.
so tough. She's so tough. And I'm super proud that I was able to get the win that night. I think it was a super close fight, and to be honest, I think it probably could have gone either way. I'm grateful that it went my way for sure, but yeah, I'm happy with it. I'm happy with my performance. So I hope to have another great performance against Roxanne. But again, like, Roxanne is super tough. She's been around for a really long time. You don't get to be in the UFC as long as she's been in the UFC and be a title contender, not only for the UFC, but like for every promotion she's ever fought for. She's been a title contender. So she's obviously very tough. And if I can go out and get a finish over Roxanne, I think that would really put I think it would put me in a really good position in the division, and right now they are kind of scrambling for contenders for Shevchenko. She's just been murdering everybody. So
Yeah.
I think it's a cool time to be at the top of the division in 125. It's a cool time.
And so speaking of the champion, what are your thoughts on the champion? Because it's been kind of weird when you ask a lot of the 125ers, like Paige Van Zandt was talking about, like, she's legitimately scared of her. It seems kind of weird for fighters to say something like that, but at the same time, it makes sense. How do you look at the champion? Is that like the challenge? Like, you know what, if we can get through that one, that would really do something for my career?
Man, I'm like obsessed with Valentina. I think she's so
Yeah.
badass. Like, oh my God, she's a great champion for our division. She's like everything you want in a champion, right? She can fight super well. She's very experienced. She interviews well. She's beautiful. She's starring in movies. Like, she's like larger than life. She's
And
just
she's not a spy. It's very important that we say that she is not a spy.
that we know of. That she hasn't
Right,
been admitted
exactly.
to. But yeah, I just think she's amazing. Honestly, like, I hope I get the chance to face her someday because, to be honest with you, it's an honor to stand on the same stage as these women. Like, I did not grow up like Valentina, and I didn't grow up like Roxanne. I didn't grow up like Caitlin Chukagian. I don't have the background that some of these girls have, and so to me, just to like stand on the same stage as them is really amazing. And I think she's an amazing champion. She's an amazing champion. She might be one of the best champions in the UFC currently because of what she can do. It's not just how well she can fight. It's how she is in and out of the ring. Yeah, it would be such an honor to just stand across from her, honestly.
And so I have just one last question. It's one that I'm sure you're going to hear a million times, and you're going to have to think of something clever. And no clickbait headlines here, but how do you see your fight against Roxanne Modafferi playing out come June 20th?
I think it's going to be a great fight. There's a lot of really good fights on that card, but I love that Roxanne throws down. She never stops. Like, she never gives up. She doesn't quit. She's always trying to come forward. She's always looking for a finish herself. And so for me, I think it's important for me to do that too. Like, I'm going to come forward. I'm going to be looking for the finish. I'm going to be swinging hard. Um, I'm very confident in my ground game. I think my jiu-jitsu is very underrated in the UFC, and I don't think I've had much of a chance to show it off yet. I actually have no submission wins on my record yet, but
Yeah.
I'm a good brown belt. I think that I can hang with anybody on the ground, and I hit really hard, and I'm super tough. I got a great chin, so I think it has fight of the night written all over it, and maybe with some hard work and a little bit of luck, maybe I can get a win here.
For sure. We're looking forward to it. Obviously, it's going to be a great fight. I don't have to tell you that. Listen, thanks so much for the time. I really appreciate it, and hopefully we'll talk soon.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Have a good one.